Instagram, and we're live on Facebook and YouTube all at the same time, trying out something new, seeing what we have going together here. And yeah, so what are we working on, Matt?
So I'm lighting my Tabernacle, and as a cigar aficionado, you'll appreciate that I actually filled up this butane lighter, but I do still have my Bic on backup.
I think you should use the Bic, man.
I'm still learning, but no. So yeah, I just be known for the guy that you cannot light cigars at his house because the wind. But yeah, so I just I'm lighting up the Tabernacle, which as we go through these this was kind of my personal favorite of the bunch.
So I think we're actually both smoking the same stick here, the Tabernacle Broadleaf by Foundation Cigars. And so what happened? What did we do? This is what we did, right? Matt and I have been talking for a while. I'm trying to get into whiskey. He's trying to get into cigars deeper than we already were. And so we decided we would like team up, right? We would get together on this and see if we could find a way to bring whiskey and cigars together to everybody in a different way. So what I did was I got a package together. I sent Matt 3 cigars. He had no idea what they were going to be. And I was like, Matt, send me some whiskey. And a nice little wonderful box showed up with some whiskey in it. I wish I had the bottles that he has sitting on his table, but he sent me some samples. And we then spent, 3 weeks, something like that, Matt?
Yeah, it was actually kind of nice because we both, I think, we each sent about 4 or 5 of each. So we were able to, it wasn't one of those things where we had to sit down and just like decide which was our favorite. I could actually smoke a couple of the Tabernacles with these, smoke a couple of we'll go through the other ones, but, get to know the cigar a little bit and then figure out, which one I thought was kind of my preferred favorite, both actually with and without the whiskey. I can't remember. Neither of us knew at all. They were completely blind when we sent the samples, right?
Yeah, we sent them blind. I sent mine. Our samples crossed each other in the mail, I think. They did something like this.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So you didn't know, he's going to send me scotch. You really had no idea what I was going to send.
I had no idea. You sent me something that I have wanted to try for a long time. I see the bottle sitting right there. So why don't you go through what you sent me?
Cool. So I will go through. I'll kind of put them in a little bit of an order. I'm only putting them in this order because this is how my non-cigar drinker cigar smoker mind worked through the whiskeys. So I sent, and actually I'll have to kind of explain why I sent these. I did not want to send a bunch of whiskey that was going to be impossible to find. Like you can see back behind Chris's head, he's got the Rare Perfection 15 year. I mean, that's a fantastic whiskey, and I think that we could come up with some great pairings. But the idea behind this was that we could put some pairings together that people actually could find. So these are whiskeys that are they're not unicorns. They're pretty. Most of them are pretty achievable to find. So 4 Roses, small batch, 90 proof, the lowest proof one I sent. When I sent this to Chris, it wasn't hard to find, but now that Brown-Forman has sold early times to Sazerac, some areas it might be a little harder to find. I haven't noticed it disappearing too much around here. I think people are trying to clear the shelves, but you can still get a hold of it. 100 proof, early times, and then the one Chris was really excited about. Ohio is a control state, and we don't get a ton of really, really great whiskey. If we do, it goes through like our lottery system, and no one ever gets any of that unless you're super lucky, or it's like your cousin and they just taunt you with the bottle. So Weller Antique 107, the notorious weeded Weller. And lastly, so this one is the highest proof of all of them, 1792 Foolproof. This is actually a private barrel, and I think, Chris, didn't you grab a private barrel? Instagram froze up. But can you hear me, Chris? There it goes. It froze up for a minute. So as I was saying, this is a private barrel. I think you were able to score a private barrel, and the reason that I wanted to throw this in there was because these are private barrels that I find to be pretty easy to find. You're probably not going to find an Old Weller antique private barrel, but you might come across the 1792 Foolproof, private pick. So that's what I sent, and I think it was a pretty good mix. I should have thrown in a Scotch. I don't know why I didn't do that, but maybe next time we'll have to do
maybe round two. Maybe round two. So I was excited to get all this. What I sent you, so of course we're both smoking one of them already. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm sorry. Someone called me. It's the only time I get a phone call, right, through the whole day. But so I sent you some Tabernacle broadleaf. I forget what size this is, to be honest with you. They have two sizes that are really close to each other. I believe this is the Robusto or the Corona. I think it's the Corona, actually. And I sent you Atabey. And then, of course, I sent you the Viva La Vida Lancero. And I would bring an Atabey to show you and a Lancero. Well, I would bring a Viva Lancero to show everybody on screen. We're sold out. We are completely sold out of this cigar. And Atabey, I think everybody from us has seen it. But I really wanted to focus on this stick tonight because I have plenty of it. And this is one of those easy to get cigars. So that's why I'm smoking it. It's also probably so what we did was he sent the whiskey, I sent the cigars, and we were like, okay, we're gonna pair these. Matt's like, I will pair from the perspective of a whiskey drinker. And I was like, okay, I'll pair from a perspective of a cigar smoker. Matt knows whiskey, I know cigars, and we both know just enough of each to be dangerous, I think, right? I mean, is what it feels like. So we started to work. I have all my notes in my journal here, and he's got all his notes and everything. And we're like, okay, we are ready. We hit it. We're there. And so we wanted to go live and bring it to you guys. So we really want feedback from everyone at the end of this on what your thoughts are of doing this pairings, why we chose the cigars we chose, so on and so forth. So where do you want to start? You want to start with the top? You want to start at the very top, or you want to start at what was your favorite pairing?
So my favorite pairing was kind of mixed. It actually, so this was my favorite cigar, and my favorite pairing started out actually to be the Early Times Bottled and Bond, with the fresh cigar. So just, more mild flavors that the cigar hadn't really built up more. And again, this is like, not a cigar expert, opinion here, but as you smoke into it, you get more of those smoke notes. And so earlier on in the cigar, I thought the Early Times actually paired a little bit better. I find Early Times to be a little bit of a sweeter whiskey. And then as I smoked into it, maybe about a third of the way down, this was what I found to be better, the 1792 Foolproof. I found it just brought out like a spiciness, and the Tabernacle to me has like full, like oily chocolate notes. And so I thought that 1792 complemented it more. It was just a more thicker, full body cigar, whiskey that went along with the cigar a little bit more.
So I chose the same thing. People are gonna think we're full of shit a little bit, I think, but I actually went with the 1792, which I don't have a bottle of. I have this little bottle. Does that count? So I went with the 1792 also, and I went with the Tabernacle broadleaf. This Tabernacle broadleaf is full of like, I'm not sure. Like I get fine dark Swiss chocolate, espresso notes, a little bit of raisin, and some fruit or even floral notes in it. And I actually had myself poured some of this 1792 here, which I felt was fruity. There's a fruity brightness to it, but together, and I'll just do it now, it really brought the floral, sweet chocolate notes of this Tabernacle to the front, which it changed the cigar. Yeah. Just drinking it with this whiskey changed the cigar. I tried it with everybody else, and I thought I thought that this cigar was going to, out of the ones I sent you, was going to be the one that stood best to the proof. Because this is like, what, 125 or something like that?
Yes, sir.
On this. So I was like, the only cigar that I sent you that would stand up to the proof is going to be something that's pretty meaty like this one is. So that's why I chose this. It was the most wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I took kind of some notes too on the Tabernacle too. Like you said, just deep and hearty notes of cocoa, leather, black pepper, and I found it to have a pretty sweet finish on it, which was unique for some of that pepper notes that kind of turned sweet. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I don't know what my phone is doing the weirdest thing. The screen is turning off on my phone, which it's not supposed to do when you're on.
Is it pointing down?
No, it's pointing.
Huh. Mine was doing that yesterday, and I don't know. It was like tilted down, and for whatever reason, it was causing it to go out. So I guess I'm curious. Since we'll just probably just run through the Tabernacle because it seems like that's the one we're both smoking and talking about. I personally felt that any of them could have paired decently with the Tabernacle. There wasn't any of them that, to me, which like the others, I did cross out Four Roses small batch first, but it wasn't because it was bad. It was the first one that I could eliminate. What about you? Was there any of these that just was a no-go with the Tabernacle?
I'm sorry to say this, right? Because out of this group that you sent me, I have a favorite here in this group. And I don't know if it's a psychological favorite or if I truly believe it to be the favorite, but that Weller, I did that with this stick fresh, and it killed the cigar for me. I don't know what notes in the Weller it was, but it killed the flavor on the cigar. So that was the one that I crossed out. I actually thought that the rest did really well. I gave all of them thumbs up on the rest of the pairings. So the Four Roses, the early times in 1792 would have all paired well with this cigar. It's just 1792 paired the best with the cigar, in my opinion. But I don't think I would put the Weller with this.
No, that's exactly actually my notes right here state not bad at all. Whiskey was overwhelmingly sweet though for the cigar.
I just lost all the brightness on the stick. Like the earthy notes, the leather notes were still there on this cigar with the Weller, but I lost the floral, I lost the raisin because that Weller is fairly sweet. You know what I mean? I thought the Four Roses was going to go there too, but it really didn't. It was a great compliment. So I thought it was interesting. So you would say the Weller too is the one that you would cross off the list with that Tabernacle?
The OWA wasn't the first one. The first one that I crossed off was actually Four Roses, and I had and I don't think that I eliminated any of these because it wasn't good. It was just more of like what it ended up being the best. With the Four Roses, I said the cigar brings out a good peanut note in the whiskey. Whiskey does not help the cigar. Left my mouth feeling a little like just ashy tasting.
Yeah.
So
you don't want that.
Maybe that's just because the Four Roses. Well, and I wonder, and I don't know that it's the Four Roses thing specifically. It might just be that I prefer a higher proofed whiskey, and if it was like a single barrel or something that had a little more, viscosity and thickness to it, it would have stood up to the cigar better.
So tell me about that a little bit, right? Because when you are a whiskey drinker, which you are, the lower proof stuff eventually stops. The flavor is harder for you to get out of it, right? When you're used to drinking the higher proof stuff, the single barrel stuff. I mean, what I've heard and read is that you lose some of that flavor in the lower proof stuff on your palate specifically.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So this Four Roses specifically is proof down to 90. You can have barrel proof whiskeys that are that low. It's not real common that you would have a barrel proof at 90, but I think there's some things out there like the Master's Keep, the 17-year. I want to say that one's super low, like somewhere in the high 80 proof area. So things can be that high proof and not cut with water. So don't assume that just because it's low proof means it's cut with water. But the Four Roses is. This one specifically, the small batch, is kind of a blend of two of the different mash bills that Four Roses does. I think it's 5 different yeast strains and two blends. So it's 10 different recipes, I believe. And we don't know the exact age statement on it. I think I wrote down. I think that it's assumed that it's somewhere maybe in that. Actually, I don't really know off the top of my head for Four Roses small batch. I think it's just a no age statement. But as like basically to me, it loses the viscosity as you proof that down, especially something that was originally barrel proof and then you proof it down. So it's just that mouthfeel. It isn't going to be as full bodied.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not there yet, clearly, but that experience doesn't happen with cigar smokers, right? If you're a full body cigar smoker, you smoke the heavy hitters and things like that, smoking those will not decrease your ability to experience the flavors and the body or profile that exists in a mild or a light cigar.
So I think something that's important to note there is if you were really trying to get down to the nitty gritty tasting profiles of a whiskey, it a lot, like a tasting professional would argue, you don't want to drink a 130 proof whiskey to get like the actual flavor profiles. Okay. And that's why like if you were doing an expert tasting, they're going to proof that down to, I don't know exactly, but I think I've heard even as low as like in the 30 proof area. So they actually proof it down pretty low when they're looking for like, flaws in the whiskey or actually trying to do professional tasting panels.
Okay, interesting. So that proof definitely hits. So I threw a curveball at you. I thought you were gonna throw me a curveball, to be completely honest. I was like, he's for sure gonna like try to trip me up with something. But I don't really think you did. I think you were really kind to me. I don't think I was as kind to you because I threw an Atabey at you. And the Atabey is an Ecuadorian Connecticut shade wrapper cigar. And in general, Connecticut tobacco is mild in its delivery and its spice and its profile. Shade grown Connecticut is even more mild because one relationship that tobacco has is the more sun it receives, the stronger it is. Okay. So when you get top cut leaf off of a plant, like if you have a tobacco plant, the top of the plant, the tobacco that comes from there is the strongest. And then as you go down the plant, it becomes more mild. So when you grow something in shade, you force a more mild representation of the tobacco leaf. So this Atabey is an Ecuadorian Connecticut. It's already mild because it's a Connecticut and it's shade grown. So it's even more mild as a result of that. So to stand up against whiskey in general is difficult for this cigar because it's hard to push some of those flavors, in my opinion, in a way, through the whiskey profile. You know what I mean? That whiskey is just so upfront, so strong, so flavorful. That oak, everything that comes out in it, it's crazy. So what were your thoughts on that Atabey? I have to know.
So I enjoyed it. I smoked, I think, 2 or 3 of them, and then I did my final tasting. And I found it to be an enjoyable cigar. And like you said, it was a lot of the whiskeys kind of just overpowered it. And so after we go through these, I'll be curious to hear what whiskey you would probably pick up off the shelf to specifically pair with it if you could pick any of them. But for me, it was actually pretty quick. I had one right here, Four Roses, which again, the Four Roses is the 90 proof, the least intense of these whiskeys. I right off the bat said cigar overwhelms the whiskey for sure. No, that one was like crossed it out, wasn't even a chance. The OWA, I said the flavors clash big time. Left terrible smoky flavor in my mouth. And then the Foolproof I was okay with, the 1792, but it was the early times that actually got my vote. I could have probably gone with either of them, but I think the early times just kind of one-upped it towards the end.
And why the early times specifically?
because I personally felt that so we probably do things completely backwards. I think that you're trying to enhance the cigar, and I'm probably trying to enhance the whiskey. And I think if there's a lesson to be learned here, that someone who's like I'm sure that after years and years of doing this, you start to try to like find the balance in both. But cigars have been something that I've smoked for years, but just, trying to get more of the appreciation for, like you said, like the Connecticut, the shade grown, stuff like that, and trying to actually learn that. And so it's still too kind of early on for me to try to drink the whiskey to enhance the cigar. Now, I definitely am going to notice the flaws, like how it makes my mouth feel. But I personally felt that the Atabey brought out a really good, like sweet, almost like a confectionery sugar note in the early times that I thought was really pleasant. And so that to me was why I kind of ultimately chose that one.
If I had to pick anything, I didn't love any of the pairings with the Atabey, to be honest with you. But if I had to pick anything, I went with the Four Roses on it because of the sweetness that it brought to the cigar. The cigar is already has some natural sweet creaminess to it. And I thought the Four Roses actually elevated that. I didn't notice any changes in the cigar's flavor or anything like that. I really just saw an elevation in the cigar itself. But that's a hard cigar to pair because that's really like a breakfast cigar. Eat it or smoke it with a coffee or smoke it with a dessert or something like that. You know what I mean? Is really where that cigar comes into its own.
I think that's what I was thinking the whole time too, was this would be just perfect with like a really good iced coffee. So, yeah.
But I wanted to throw a curveball. I just wanted to see if I was going to go pick something off the shelf. I think, and again, I'm not a pro here, but I think I would end up with like a Eagle Rare or like a Sazerac or something like that. Something that's real low proof, nice sweetness on it, or maybe even a rum.
Are you trying to prime me for what I should send you next?
No, man.
He's like Pappy Van Winkle.
Pappy. What
kidding.
Else? Ardbeg. What else is expensive that I can't get here? No, but you know what I mean. Like, so Eagle Rare is
good question. What about Scotch? Would that have been a good one? Do you think with the Atabey?
No,
is that what you would have put with it?
I mean, how smoky, right? Like, I don't think I think a real smoky Scotch would actually go really good with this Tabernacle.
I can tell you from experience. I drank a decent amount of the Corey Vrecken and the Ugadile with this, which I know that you had mentioned like the 10-year. I think that this can even stand up to like the heavier, like the Ugadile and the Corey Vrecken. So
maybe we should do a Scotch episode, and I'll just send you a bunch of light cigars, and you don't hate me.
So would that be a rule of thumb? Light cigars with if someone has like a takeaway from this, and you were going to bullet point like 5 things, would you say if it's a light cigar that you probably should consider like a peaty Scotch? Is that fair to say?
I don't know, because I think it's so there's like so much minutia there. You know what I mean? It's really, really, really hard to tell because it depends on how the cigar itself hits your palate specifically. What I would say is proof I'm finding is important, unless I shouldn't say proof, but that alcohol burn, that throat burn that you get. The more of that there is, the heavier the cigar needs to be, in my opinion. The fuller body the cigar needs to be. So like, who is it? Lavgalin makes a 16 or 18 year, something like that. That's really, really smoky. It's like the smokiest thing I've ever had. And I found that going really, really well with Atabey, with a lot of lighter shade Connecticut cigars. I don't know why, because the smoke is flavor, but it wasn't any way connected with potency of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So a takeaway would be, and we're gonna have to flush this out some, but my initial takeaway would be the heavier, the higher proof the whiskey, the heavier your cigar should be, because I think that's where a lot of that flavor gets lost.
So you said the higher proof the whiskey, just the more full body the cigar should be?
I think so. But I might change my mind next time.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. We should probably, for anybody who's watching, Chris sent me three just kind of random blind cigars. I sent Chris 4 whiskeys. I don't really know why we weren't 1-to-1 on that, but for whatever reason, I just wanted to, in case there was one that he wasn't a big fan of. And we basically, we both paired them, and we came up with our own tasting notes, what was our favorite, what worked, what didn't work, and why. He's smoking the Tabernacle, which was his favorite of the bunch. I'm smoking the Tabernacle. It was my favorite. And I actually just poured some early times with the Tabernacle, which was my runner-up with the Tabernacle. This was Chris's number 1. My number 1 was actually the Foolproof. So
yeah, so my number 1 was the Foolproof also. So like, if you're gonna take away anything from our ridiculous babbling here today, take away the Foundation Cigars Tabernacle Broadleaf and the 1792 Foolproof, if you can find it, is a pairing you absolutely must try. It's a must-try pairing because we both nailed it together, and we did not talk to each other about that either. So separately,
yeah.
Cigar smokers like this pairing in general, and whiskey drinkers like this pairing in general. Good place to go. So the third cigar I sent you was the Viva La Vida Lancero, which is done exclusively, shameless plug here for Luxury Cigar Club. I had to send that to you because I'm proud of it. And it's one of my favorite cigars. It's a go-to cigar for me all the time when we're not out. We are out of them right now. Tell me what your experience was with that, because the unique thing, I'll just tell you, the unique thing about Lanceros is you're experiencing most of the flavor from the wrapper leaf in a Lancero. So when you look at any other format cigar, you look at the ratio between the wrapper leaf and the rest of the tobacco in the cigar. And in the Lancero, the ratio between wrapper and binder and filler is the absolute highest. You get more wrapper burns per square inch than you do of the rest of the cigar, which means you get the most flavor out of the cigar. And the wrapper leaf is where the flavor comes from in these cigars. It provides the majority of the flavor. So I sent that to you because it really hones in on that wrapper leaf. Now you're really looking at the full blend, but that wrapper leaf especially. So what were your thoughts there?
Before I dive in, it's really, really funny that you're talking about wrapper ratio to filler, because in the whiskey world, there's kind of a similar kind of comparison, and that's going to be like aging things in smaller barrels.
Okay.
More surface area per whiskey. So it's kind of weird that like that's not my preferred way of aging things in a smaller barrel, but there's kind of similarities with that there. Would be fun to kind of think about a little bit more. So my initial thought, honestly, with the Viva La Vida, like I can talk about them individually. I didn't think that really any of them were like stand out. Like I love this pairing, but I certainly had favorites. I just feel like there's probably things that pair with that Viva La Vida because, like you said, it's just a fantastic all-around cigar. And I actually, when you sent those in the Lancero, I hadn't really smoked a lot of Lanceros yet, and I was kind of like, wow, this is a different cigar. But I ended up loving the size. They smoke really, really nice. So I think that's a takeaway too for like a kind of a non-cigar smoker, that if you see those in a cigar shop, don't hesitate to pick it up because the smoking experience on those is really pleasant. First of all, I threw this one out right away. I was not a fan of the 1792 with the Viva La Vida. I found that it made the cigar taste stale, kind of like an ashtray, and the cigar kind of just made the whiskey taste overly spicy and just didn't bring out any good quality notes in it. Yeah. What do you think about the 1792?
I threw the seven.
That wasn't your. That was not,
No. I threw the 1792 and I threw the early times out immediately. Both of them for me missed the mark. I don't know if it was the relationship between the two, but neither of them tasted great together. So I was like, no, neither of these. What if you had to pick one? What would you end up with?
No, I did pick one. I just, like I said, I didn't feel that there was one that was just like totally stand out. And who knows? I think that these kind of things, that your palate changes day to day, what you had for dinner. Who knows? Like, if I went back and did these over again, it could all be, it could all be different. My runner-up was actually the OWA. I was right with you at the early times. I'd said that did not pair well either. The Four Roses, I felt was the best. And I said that actually this is something that unique that I remember specifically when doing this pairing. The Viva La Vida brought out a kind of like a dark burnt cinnamon note, like almost like a baking cinnamon.
Yes.
Which isn't something that is a note. Like when I look at the actual notes that I have of the Four Roses small batch, we're talking caramel, cherry. Cinnamon is in there, but not like dark baking cinnamon. And so that's something that that enhanced the whiskey for me, and probably likewise back onto the cigar. What did you get any of that?
So that cinnamon note that you're baking spices is a note that's pretty prevalent in the whole Viva La Vida lineup. And so like that cinnamon note, I think falls into that baking spices feel, like star anise, cinnamon. They're powerful spices to stand up to the baking process. And I agree with you 100%. And I need to go back. Tonight, when I get home, I'm gonna pull a Lancero and the Four Roses out of my personal collection here. I went and bought a bottle of the Four Roses because I really liked it actually, right? So I went and bought a bottle of that, and I'm gonna do that again and look for that cinnamon though. I have it written here. I have molasses, cinnamon, that family of flavors written for that. So that's interesting because that note exists in that cigar too. So maybe it was just a match made in heaven for you. I put it with the Weller Antique. I think it was an amazing pairing. I wish it was my favorite pairing of the group, selfishly, because I love the Lancero, and I have this like thing for this Weller. It was sweet. It was really bright. I thought the whiskey brightened the cigar up. It really brought the floral notes, the slight citrus sensations that are there up to the top for me on that. So that's the pairing that I specifically went for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my exact notes on the OWA Old Weller Antique was paired well. Spice really came out. So that was kind of my takeaway. Did you notice the citrus notes more on the cigar?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Which not a lot of people get citrus notes on cigars. I do from time to time. They're really faint. And actually, I saw a question from Fabuccino. He's one of the Luxury Cigar Club members. He's been with us for a long time. And the question, I'm assuming he's asking you. If he's asking me, he's not going to be a member anymore. But do you retrohale your cigars?
Do I retrohale my cigars?
Yeah.
I think you should ask me, do I know what retro means?
Do you know what retrohaling means?
I have no idea.
Okay, so we need to redo this experiment because all of the data is bad.
For real? I probably do it. No, I probably do it. I just don't know what you're talking about.
Not for real. I'm messing with you. No. So like a really big piece when you're teaching someone how to drink whiskey, what would you do from the beginning to the end? Tell them. So hey, this is the way you drink whiskey to get the best experience.
So I'd probably run them through kind of what the whiskey consensus tasting experience is like. It's kind of made up of 5 categories. The first thing that you would do, actually the first 2 things that I would recommend, okay, so I'm adding something that isn't technically in there. It's more like 6 because the visualization, the color isn't something that we like review on. But I think that it's important that you kind of take a look at what the whiskey is. Ultimately, I'm looking at these whiskeys in front of me, and I can see this early times is definitely darker than this Four Roses. This Four Roses is, well, the bottle's wider, so that's not really fair. So color isn't always an indicator because whiskey picks up a lot of that color that it has in that first 1 to 2 years of aging. A lot of the color is going to come from them. You know, if you have a really dark char, it's going to get darker quicker. So where I'm going with that is the first thing is just kind of visualize it, take a look at it, see what you notice. Does it have legs? You know, that can indicate like some viscosity. Then move into the first category that we actually review, and that's going to be the nose. There's going to be whiskey that you're going to come across that you might spend a lot of time just nosing the whiskey. And a cigar, you know, aficionado might do the same thing and actually just love the way that cigar smells before you even light it. And so that's kind of the first thing that I would recommend is just going through and smelling the whiskey and pulling out what notes are in there. They don't always transfer over into the taste, but a lot of times, you know, some of those more dominant notes will. Yep. Then, of course, moving on to what everybody's favorite part is, and that's going to be the tasting, or at least the first part of the tasting, and that's going to be the palate. The flavors that initially hit the most. You know, is it forward on the tongue? Is it kind of, you know, does it hit the side of the tongue and move all over? And then just the general flavors that you get in that first initial sip, and then moving into the finish and what you're tasting, you know, maybe 10, 20, 30 seconds afterwards. And that gets into like, how was the finish? And if you're still tasting that whiskey, you know, like 2 minutes after, it could be just an extremely long experience. And sometimes whiskeys even like have an okay finish, and then it just is like what I call the plume with just like a big explosion of flavor. And that's what I love to look for in a whiskey. And then I like to do kind of just like an in conclusion and a value. You know, what did the whiskey cost for what you paid? Was it a good investment? And just kind of a scoring based on that. So that's kind of how I run through it. But there is ways to like, there's different methods of tasting. I don't know what this retro thing is yet, but there's a way of tasting where you actually, you know, you kind of almost like, you don't directly like breathe it in with your nose. There's like, I want to say it's called like aspherical breathing. I'm going to look like an idiot, but there's a name for that type of smelling something.
So here, the process that you described is probably exactly the same process that you would go through with cigars, right? You're going to inspect it. So there's something in cigars called tooth, and it's little bumps on the wrapper. And what it is it's in this cigar you're smoking, you can see it. If you get the light bouncing off of it, you'll see little bumps, little speckles on the wrapper. And that's oil and the tobacco that has formed little nodules on the surface. So that's that visual inspection. You know, what am I noticing? Of course, like for the whiskey, you probably want to know the mash bill, right? You want to know the blend of the cigar as well, because that's the DNA, the essence of it. And then, yes, you smell it. Smell the wrapper. You smell the foot. Get those notes there. See how they change once you're lit. But something that you can do while you're smoking cigars that you can't do while you're drinking whiskey is pass the smoke itself through your nose. And that's a retrohale.
Say it again. Pass
the smoke from your mouth through your nose, and that's a retrohale, and that changes significantly the flavor that you're receiving, because you're using the taste receptors both in your mouth and in your nose, and you can't do that with whiskey because it would probably burn like crazy to squirt whiskey out of your nose, but you can do that with cigars. So you can actually pick up a significant amount of flavor from a cigar. When you nose the whiskey, you're nosing it and you're trying to pick up those notes. So, and those are indicators for your brain of what you're going to look for when you're drinking it.
I just did it. That's crazy.
It changes everything.
It's not like you're inhaling, because like I try as hard as I can not to inhale. I certainly don't want to inhale cigar smoke, but when you breathe that out your nose, it doesn't do that at all. And it's just like a feint just to like hit those receptors up in your like sinuses.
Yeah, that's it. And you can do it with some of the like the I guess, I don't know, you take a drink, you swallow it, and you have that flavor in your mouth with a whiskey. You can do that too.
So Bourbon Lens he just verified what you're saying is very similar in whiskey too, where you almost like open your mouth and you breathe it in, and it probably hits the same kind of the way you're getting those senses. So
it's probably the same thing. So that's it. But as you're smoking cigars now, you don't have to retrohale every time, because it's a little bit harsh. I try to retro 3 or 4 times per cigar, and I try to retrohale once or twice in the first third, once or twice in the second third, and once or twice in the final third of the cigar, just to see how it's progressing, things like that. Olfactory senses, yeah. Bourbon lens just nailed it. So yeah, it will change. It will change cigars significantly. There are cigars that if you don't retrohale, I don't like them. But once you get the retro in there, I really enjoy them.
Will that continue to change throughout, like for a little bit of time?
Yeah.
So it'll actually change the experience for a duration of time after you retrohale?
Yeah, it will. Yeah, because it's there for a while. The receptors are still firing on it. In my experience, it's not in perpetuity. It's not perpetual, of course. But I think it does hit that. For a few puffs, something like that. It just adds some dynamics. It adds a dynamic.
Yeah.
It adds a new dynamic to the experience. So I don't know if you have any of those sticks left over, but if you do, go back through them, retrohale them.
Yeah. You mentioned the little little notches on the cigar. You sent a cigar out. Yeah, the tooth. You sent a cigar out in the July pack that I've taken several pictures of that has tons of that. It almost looks like ostrich skin.
Okay, what cigar was it? Do you remember off the top of your head?
It's pretty dark. It has the label. Actually, I don't think has any writing, and it just has like a face. I think it's like green label.
Yes, that's a toothy. That's the El Septimo Gilgamesh.
The most beautiful cigar I've ever seen.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. It's an amazing cigar, and you'll see that tooth too. Like as you burn through this and you look at the ash really closely, you'll see the tooth on the ash as well, and it's typically indicative of a good cigar tooth. You look for tooth in a cigar.
Huh. So that's actually that cigar that I was just referencing from last month. Does that have specific characteristics because of that?
It produces a fuller flavor when you have that tooth, because what you're tasting generally is the oil that you're burning. It's the oil. It's all of the calcium that's in the tobacco. It's all the minerals that the tobacco's received from the soil. That's why regions is so huge. Like in whiskey too, it's huge. Each region, where you grow the corn or where you age the barrel, it all adds. What water you use. It all adds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the
same thing. Same thing with cigars. Cigars that are grown in volcanic soil have really unique flavors. You know what I mean?
Where is that pretty common?
Not super common, no. A lot of Cubans are grown in volcanic soil, and then there's a region called Ometepe, and that is volcanic soil, and it's a very, very, it's one of my favorite tobaccos right now is Ometepe. It delivers a really unique, leathery man flavor is the best that I can describe it. Just like a cowboy just got off a horse type of flavor. I don't know what else to.
Is that in your official tasting notes?
Yeah, it might be, man. Some of the stuff we write is ridiculous, I think.
Wow.
So, anyway, you've drank like 4 glasses of whiskey since we've been together. I keep seeing you pour stuff out of different bottles. Is there a process to cleanse your palate between those? Yeah,
and actually there is, and I thought about talking about that because I thought it would be something unique to bring up. I'm not doing it now, but when I was actually doing my tastings, I was a little more official, and I was I would try a whiskey and I would cleanse my palate with a food. I would try to use something that was like a cracker that was not a lot of flavor, maybe like a pretzel or something. Drink some water. Right now, I've just been kind of drinking the same thing. I've only had the early times, and I've been sneaking some sips of the Four Roses Small Batch Select because it's just delicious. But yeah, so I normally would cleanse my palate, but I've only had 2 different whiskeys with this, so yeah. Good. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, like soda water, flat soda water, coffee is real good. A palate cleanser, just a really, really basic coffee. When I'm tasting for the club, I always taste on a fresh palate first thing in the morning. You know what I mean? No toothpaste. No, I'll just drink some water. Try to get the night out of my mouth and on the freshest palate I possibly can be on. So the two worlds are really, really similar in a lot of the practices. A cracker, an unsalted cracker or something like that is really good for a palate cleanse as well.
Or as Rylan says, a communion cracker.
A communion cracker. That might be a little bit, I don't know. Can we say that? We need to make a shirt.
As long as it's on Sunday with Elijah Craig, that's all that matters.
Our brother Elijah. No, but that's awesome. So, we have like 10, 15 minutes left. Do we want to do a Q&A and see if anyone has any questions for us?
Yeah, totally.
All right, guys, if you've got questions, I've seen a lot of stuff going. I'm sorry we've missed some of it, but everyone that's watching, thank you so much. We're open for 10, 15 minutes for some Q&A. Just let us know who you're asking, what you're asking. We'll both chime in if we can.
First thing I'm going to respond to Indiana Bourbon. He said, smell your watch. I am not going to smell my watch because my watch is a running watch and nobody wants to smell a running watch.
Who runs?
Who runs?
Does that?
Only losers.
I don't do that. I can't be bothered. Best cigar for Weller SR. I'm going to give that to you because I've never had Weller SR.
Well, the ones that I thought went the best with the OWA, I didn't pick any of them up front and forward, but the OWA seemed to pair well with the Viva La Vida. I think that was your number one pick.
Yeah.
So when you go from 107, Weller 107 down to the 90 proof special reserve, you're of course losing the proof, but a lot of that flavor profile is going to be similar. So
my suggestion would be then, given that, if the flavor profile is similar, go to a core line Viva La Vida, like the Viva La Vida Torpedo or the Viva La Vida Robusto, because the spice in that is reduced a little bit.
Not as much wrapper. Not
as much wrapper ratio. So I don't remember who asked that. That was Auburn Tiger. Try a Viva La Vida core line cigar, Lancero or a Robusto or Torpedo is where I would go with that.
Huh. Good to know. So is that kind of a rule of thumb? If you're trying to, like, if you like the Viva La Vida, but you don't want as intensive flavors, don't go for the Lancero. The Lancero is going to stand up to something a little more full body.
I wouldn't necessarily say full body. I just ashed all over myself. So that's good. I would say I know the Viva La Vida line very well, so there's a really informed suggestion there. But the Lancero, Luxury Cigar Club, we like to call it the Lancero, the Vitola, or the size Lancero, is a magnifying glass of blends. It's gonna blow everything up. So the Viva La Vida blend is done so well by AJ Fernandez that they're very similar throughout the different sizes. Very, very similar, just minute changes. So that's why in that case, wow, we got a lot of questions coming in here.
I know.
Thoughts on Christoph cigars? Which Christoph cigar? It's really hard to pick out like just a brand in general. After doing this, it definitely seems like there's pairing a cigar to a whiskey versus pairing a whiskey for a cigar. I think we were doing the opposite. I was whiskey for cigar. I think Matt was the opposite.
That was specifically something we talked about. And I think that unless you're someone who's just a diehard both, you're probably always going to try to complement the one that you're probably more passionate about.
That's it. Steve asks, just got my LCC box. Well, Steve, first, thanks for being a member. Which cigar should I pair with a strong barrel-proof bourbon? Which barrel-proof bourbon is where I would go with that first. And out of that box specifically, that Illusione is a pretty full-body cigar. The Plasencia is also a pretty sturdy cigar. Is it true that the flavor of a cigar depends on the soil the tobacco plant is grown in? Absolutely. Yep, I think we actually just talked about that. 100%. Aloha. What's a good recommended amount of whiskey, 4 Roses, for example, to drink with a Robusto? That's all you, man.
Clearly, don't ask me. 4 glasses.
Yeah, he's 4 glasses ahead of me.
I'm catching up. Man. I waited to drink.
If you had to drink one bourbon for the rest of your life, what would it be? Matt, what would it be? One bourbon, rest of your life.
Oh, my God.
Desert Island bourbon.
Oh. Desert Island bourbon. That is not a good question for me. I'm going to eat up too much of our time even thinking about that. I love just 4 Roses, barrel proof, private barrels. I love Russell's Reserve, private barrels. To me, that's some of the best value in whiskey, and neither of them are impossible to find. I think there's certainly diminishing returns, so don't think that, your Booker's 30th is the end-all, be-all. It's a fantastic whiskey, but Elijah Craig barrel proof, to be completely honest, usually when people ask me my bucket list, I end up reverting back to Elijah Craig barrel proof.
Okay.
It's fantastic. I love cask strength whiskey. If you're on an island, you don't have to drink as much of it because it's cask strength. Some of them are, in the history back in, I don't remember what year, 2016 or something, they did a hazmat over 140 proof. So maybe that was even earlier. I think that was actually 15. But anyways, I would just say something cask strength. I love the Elijah Craig line. So
that's a good point, because you're thinking about how much whiskey do I have with me on that island, right? Like how long do I have to make this last?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you get it forever? I mean, definitely bring a 175. I have a 175 jug of OWA in the basement. Wow. I'd be okay with that.
You can send that to me if you want.
Ohio doesn't get much that's fantastic, but we do get a lot of Weller. So
we got some other stuff. Old Carter, Desert Island cigar. Everybody, anyone that knows me at all will be able to answer this for me. So those of you that know me, put in chat, what's my Desert Island cigar? Let's see how many people know me that know me. Stranahan's Colorado small batch. No, that's not it, believe it or not. Old Carter Someone
actually just mentioned Old Carter. The Old Carter American whiskey, 138.1 proof that came out this year. Fantastic whiskey. We scored that one very high. To me, it was the favorite probably of the 2020 releases that Old Carter did.
Dave, leave, get out of here. That's Dave at Cincy Media. He says acid. He knows better. We got some Atabey answers. Atabey is not the answer. Black and mild, I always keep black and mild on me, guys, always.
I'm really curious about this. I didn't know that people do desert island cigars.
It's something that we do when we go live with people or do cut and lights. We always like to say, hey, if you have one cigar, and usually they're cigar manufacturers, one cigar that's not yours, what would it be that you have to be stuck on a desert island, right? Because when you get someone on your show or something like that, they always like to talk about their cigar, which we love to have. But what else do you love? What else is there? Mark got it. The Eye of the Shark, Arturo Fuente, Eye of the Shark. I would sleep on them, hopefully, and smoke them forever.
Are they around still?
They're around. They're allocated cigars. They come out 2 or 3 times a year from Arturo Fuente. Most shops only get 1 or 2 boxes of it a year. They're the best.
They're pretty much pre-sold, I'm guessing.
They're pre-sold. We just sold some today, actually. We just had a bundle go out on our website. We got an allocation, and we shared it with our guys. Usually I would buy them myself, but Ben told me I wasn't allowed to buy them anymore. So I stopped.
Yeah.
So guys, tell us what you think. Did you like this format? Did you like what we did? Give us hearts if you liked it. Like this. Do you want to see it? Do you want to see this again? Would you watch this if we did it again? OGD 114 with the Perdomo 10th anniversary champagne is my desert island pairing. What is OGD 114? Do you know, Matt?
What is a 114? Oh,
OGD.
Old Granddad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Old Granddad 114. That's actually, so that's Old Granddad 114 is kind of like in the category of this. It's like just a super good, available as long as your state gets it, whiskey that is way beyond, you know, the $25 price tag. It's a great whiskey. Yep.
All right, it sounds like we're doing this again, Matt, just based on what people are saying.
Yeah. No, it was definitely fun. I'm looking forward to trying some more, bringing some scotches into this. I know I'm not rum consensus, but I'd love to see, you know, what we would pair with. I just love like Foursquare and some of the other rums out there, and I'd love to see what we could do with those.
So I've heard about Foursquare from Jeremy Sears, actually. The rum. He's like, you got to try it, but I can't find it anywhere. And Scotch, you know, we're just doing the whiskey and bourbon right now for ourselves, just trying to learn it. But we would love to get into that Scotch world. More testing sessions. Yep.
I think it would be fun, Chris. It'd be fun to do one of these kind of live where we each have a cigar, and not 3 cigars and 4 whiskeys, but we each have a cigar, and then we just run through like 4 different whiskeys with 1 cigar.
What if we do this? What if we do this? What if you pick a whiskey that's pretty easy to get? I pick a cigar that's pretty easy to get, and we make an announcement like 3 weeks ahead of time. And we say, we're going to pair this live. Everybody go get this cigar. Everybody go get this whiskey. And then everybody that's watching can go through it with us.
That'd be fun.
What do you guys think about that idea, everyone that's watching? Let's do it.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I think it's just fun to pair new things and just kind of see, because you never really know exactly how they're gonna, you know, how they're gonna pair.
Okay, I think that's our next one then. How about we just seal the deal now?
All right.
Next time
Happy Van Winkle in that Fuente that you.
The Purple Rain. You can't get it anywhere. Good luck. I have this Pappy here. I don't think I can open it. I can't do it, man.
No, flip it and buy a bunch of really good like Russell's Reserve picks.
There you go.
You'll do something good with that, I'm sure. That's a good whiskey. I would love, actually, that Rare Perfection behind you. I've got a couple bottles of that. That's probably the most viscous whiskey I've ever drank. It's got just crazy notes of to me it has coconut, almost like not in a bad way, but like a sunscreen and like rubbery chemical rubber notes.
What?
Yeah, no,
sunscreen?
Try it. It's one of the most crazy whiskeys that I've tried, as far as like, because that's a Canadian whiskey. So the climate that it aged in is, you know, much different than what you'd get from like Canada. Okay. Read our review on it. It's out there as far as the flavor goes.
Okay. We have 1 minute and 15 seconds left on Instagram. I have a little bit of time left on my cigar. So once this live ends, I'm going to go back live. I'm going to stay live on YouTube. Matt, you're welcome to join if you want. I'm just going to keep talking, answering questions if anyone has them for me. If you want to join, Matt, let me know. We'll get you in here also.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So I'm going to end this. I'm going to go use the bathroom just real quick, and then I'll be back and I'll be live again.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone that did watch. We really appreciate you. We love you all. If you're a Luxury Cigar Club member, thank you for all your support. You are our family, and we want to keep trying to bring you fun stuff. So we'll talk to everybody soon. We are going live again. I'll see you in a minute, Matt.
Cheers. On IG. He's still on here live. Oh man, what'd you think of that?
Good.
It's intense.
That was intense. There was a lot. I mean, you just had a lot with 3 different pairings of cigars and 4 different whiskeys. What you should do next time is like give your regular tasting notes for all 4 whiskeys, and then like first like run through it. That way you have like a baseline for what you.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Dude, I know. So many notes.
I know I'm live on YouTube still. I'm gonna stay live on YouTube. I'm just posting that video and then I'm gonna go back live on Instagram.
Man, I need one of those luxury cigar club hats. Those things are sweet. Do you sell those on your site?
All right. I am back. I think Matt's gonna join me here. This is just gonna be a casual conversation and just a continuation to our last video here. Hello to everyone that is joining.
Can you hear me, Chris?
What's up, everyone? If you guys missed it, I was just live with Whiskey Consensus doing a whiskey and cigars pairing video. Matt from Whiskey Consensus is, what's up, Greg? How's it going, dude? Matt from Whiskey Consensus, I think, is going to hop right back on here. And maybe.
Can you? I don't know.
What's up from Jersey? Pure, what's going on? Puff with Pun, what's going on? Hello, Cisco. Welcome. Hello. It will not play for you, bro. It'll play. It'll go up soon.
Can you hear me?
Yo. What's up, everyone? What's going on? Tony, what's going on, Tony? Hashtag free Tony. Not sure how feeling about this August box. You got to smoke it before you can feel anything about it, my friend. I am smoking the Tabernacle Broadleaf Corona. Tabernacle is an amazing cigar.
Those things.